From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I am Sridevi. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is confident of a win at the upcoming general election. Maduro said that in the 19 years since the beginning of the Bolivarian Revolution, 24 elections have taken place, of which the government has won 22. He believes that Hugo Chávez's legacy has helped him garner 55% of intended votes for the April 22nd poll. In an interview with state media, Maduro rebuked comments that his numbers were questionable.
Regarding the US and the opposition stance of non-participation in the upcoming elections, President Maduro said they had been painted into a corner by clear numbers that didn't run in their favor.
I am giving you true numbers, scientifically measured between the candidate Nicolas Maduro versus any candidate that the opposition could have. The United States Embassy has these numbers. The opposition also has these numbers. This is why they have shifted to a bad, dangerous and self-destructive position to get themselves out of the electoral competition.
With regard to self-criticism, corruption was an important theme. The Venezuelan president highlighted that corruption is being fought through the Constituent National Assembly.
We could talk about the corruption issue. In a country where there was immense wealth over 100 years, a culture of bribery and corruption was created. And unfortunately, this reached the highest authorities in the oil industry. Now, we can say, to balance the self-criticism that fortunately, with the power of the National Constituent Assembly, a truly strict persecution against any corruption case has started.
President Maduro also talked about progress in oil production recovery in the country.
There are several factors. A factor that has to do with the compliance of the fees with OPEC. An important reduction in the country's fees was established. There is a second factor, the corruption and the inefficiency of the heads of the oil industry that were involved in corruption cases. This led to an important reduction of 1 million of oil barrels. We're recovering it. Fortunately, I think that in the first semester of this year, we will recover 70% of the production that was affected by the factors that I am saying.
With respect to the presidential elections and the position of the opposition, the Venezuelan president reiterated the provision to maintain constitutional guarantees to all Venezuelans who want to run.
In Venezuela, whoever wants to be a candidate will have all the guarantees. In fact, they are the same the opposition had in 2015 when they beat us in National Assembly elections.
As for the April 22nd presidential elections, Maduro said that before, during and after the elections, he will call for dialogue despite the opposition's reluctance to talk and fear of compromise.
Candidate registration for the Venezuela election starts today. Our correspondent Freddie Gillingham tells us what to expect in Caracas.
So today is the official day when presidential candidates can officially register here at the National Electoral Council. We are here at the CNE, who have opened their doors today and tomorrow for that process to commence. They will be officially announcing the nominations this Thursday. Tomorrow, President Nicolas Maduro is expected to come here to register. If he wins another term, he will be president until 2025. Just last week, he announced a proposal for a mega election. This would combine the municipal and legislative votes to happen on that day on April 22nd. However, that was declined. The National Assembly are set to convene again this week to set a proposed date for those votes, which will not be taking place on April 22nd. Today and tomorrow we will know a little bit more about the potential presidential candidates who will be running against Maduro. That's it from me at the National Electoral Council in Caracas.
Thanks for that report, Freddie Gillingham. The Venezuelan government has accused the United States of attacking the peace and stability of the country by trying to judge the election process. This comes after Washington supported the opposition's decision to boycott the polls. The statement said the U.S. is assuming the role of an authority and seeks to define the future of people when it hasn't been granted the right to do so. And President Maduro also criticized comments previously made by U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson when he suggested the army could stage a coup.
When imperialism and the U.S. Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, calls on Venezuelan military officials to undertake a coup, he's offending the Bolivarian dignity of our Bolivarian National Armed Forces. And our Bolivarian National Armed Forces respond with the 2018 military independence exercise and cry out, independence and socialist fatherland, to the Secretary of State and to imperialism.
Venezuela's Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza has arrived in Switzerland. This is the first stop on the European leg of his global diplomacy tour. Arreaza hopes to foster stronger ties and drum up support for the government. He also took part in the United Nations 37th Human Rights Council meeting, which was set up by the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. And during that conference, Arreaza voiced his opposition to U.S. policy and the impact it could have on a country heading to the polls.
Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza's message was clear. The interference of the United States is harmful to the people of Venezuela.
We want to warn the Council of Human Rights, a vital institution to protect the people's rights, the dangerous situation that we are in, because the United States and its allies want to provoke Venezuela through sanctions imposed. That will only harm the Venezuelan people. The U.S. is doing this with political and financial extortion exercised by Washington over the governments in Europe, Latin America, and the Caribbean. There's also relentless psychological and media war that has been very well planned and financed.
Arreaza called on all political parties in Venezuela to play fair during the elections. He said all sides should stick to the agreement reached during the talks between the government and opposition in the Dominican Republic.
We will have free elections, sovereign and transparent, on April 22nd. We hope every political party fulfills the agreement made in Santo Domingo with responsibility. We know some parties, despite having the will to participate, they still don't have Washington's authorization to register their presidential candidates.
Arreaza ratified Venezuela's defense of human rights. He also said the United Nations Council of Human Rights may need to be protected from more powerful countries.
In this year that we celebrate the 70th anniversary of the Declaration of Human Rights, Venezuela ratifies its commitment to guarantee and defend human rights at this council meeting. We hope to keep on working to strengthen this institution. We have to shield this council from the pressures and interventions of powerful countries who want to influence the council in favor of their opinions. Let's remember the issues of human rights have been used by belligerent countries to justify wars and to generate the conditions to allow the worst violations of human rights.
Ahead of his speech at the council, the foreign minister held a meeting with UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
One relationship that's not going to plan is Venezuela's ties with Chile. The Chilean Foreign Minister Geraldo Muñoz said Venezuela is not a democracy. Chile also pulled out of talks to foster peace between Venezuela and the opposition. Arreaza has accused Chile of obstructing the dialogue. In a tweet he said, "We thought that the accompaniment of Geraldo Muñoz in the dialogue would be constructive. However, he dedicated himself to torpedoing and making fun of the process from the first day." But Nicaragua has Venezuela's back. The government has rejected a call by the Organization of American States to postpone Venezuela's elections. The ambassador of Nicaragua called the OAS illegitimate, illegal, and in a violation of international law. He said the OAS proposal violates the sovereign right of the people. We take a short break now. Join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting.
Então, se você é negro, preste atenção nisso que a gente vai falar.
Evite sair de casa em altas horas, infelizmente à noite.
Não saia sem documentos. Priorize levar na bolsa, na carteira ou na mochila a sua carteira de identidade ou a sua carteira de trabalho.
Celular na horizontal, ó, e não é para tampar a saída de áudio, porque a gente precisa escutar o que o ser humano que está te parando está dizendo. Nós, negros, somos sempre alvos de abusos, retaliações. Infelizmente, à noite, a partir do olhar do outro, você é não somente negro, mas bandido e apresenta perigo.
Em lugares públicos, evite o uso de furadeira e guarda-chuva longo. Parece bobagem, mas muitas pessoas olham isso de longe e acham que são armas de fogo.
Grenada's Prime Minister Keith Mitchell, who served as Caricom chair during the hurricane season, congratulated member states for being the first to lend aid when the storms hit last year. Mitchell passes the baton of the chair to Haitian President Jovenel Moïse. The 29th Inter-Sessional Meeting of the Caricom heads of government is taking place in Haiti. Their key mission is to find a way to build a climate-resilient community. Countries in the Caribbean are still rebuilding after Irma and Maria, two Hurricane 5 hurricanes, which ravaged the Caribbean last August and September. Apart from the climate, Caricom members will also examine the high incidences of crime and violence. In particular, they want to combat transnational organized crime. They will also seek to strengthen travel and trade between nations. Honduras' opposition alliance wants political prisoners to be freed from maximum security jails. The opposition says the prisoners were detained for opposing the controversial re-election of President Juan Orlando Hernandez. The government has denounced the move, saying the opposition is aligned with gangs and looters. And in response, the government cancelled visitor privileges to the prison, prompting the alliance to pull back plans for protests. In a tweet, former Honduran President Manuel Zelaya said the opposition is now being blamed for the cancellation of family visits. Antigua and Barbuda will hold parliamentary elections on March 21st. Prime Minister Gaston Browne made the announcement during a party rally late Saturday. Browne said he called for early elections to protect the many plans his Antigua Labour Party, the ALP, has scheduled for the coming years. He also introduced the 17 candidates proposed by his party. Browne has already asked the Governor-General to dissolve the current parliament by February 26th. He will then issue the official call for elections on Tuesday.
So, the date of the next general elections will be Wednesday, March 21st.
In Peru, President Pedro Pablo Kuczynski is falling out of favor. His approval ratings has hit a new low of just 17%. The poll conducted by La Republican newspaper and GFK Global showed that 83% of Peruvians do not approve of their president's policies and his political conduct. More than half of them want him removed. A similar number of people want him to resign. Kuczynski's numbers have taken a hit from corruption allegations and the controversial pardon of jailed former leader Alberto Fujimori. Several social groups in Lima are calling for a People's Summit. They want an alternative to the Summit of the Americas, which they say doesn't represent the real problems of the people in the hemisphere.
Social and political groups, along with trade unions, have gathered at el Comando Nacional Unitario de Lucha, the National Command of Struggle, or CENUL. This is the organization that will run the next People's Summit, in opposition to the Summit of the Americas, set to take place on April 13 and 14th in Lima.
Porque hay que rechazar este espacio de integración que nos quiere imponer.
Because we have to reject this free trade model. This model has affected so many people and also allows transnationals to avoid paying taxes. The Lima Group model is a model that tries to implement United States policies in Latin American countries.
Social movements also reject that the Summit of the Americas has as its main issue the fight against corruption, when the host country president, Pedro Pablo Kuczynski, is facing serious corruption accusations that could force him to step down.
They have the nerve to talk about corruption, when we have a bunch of Peruvian politicians accused of corruption. We have the president of Brazil accused of corruption, the president of Argentina and Honduras, and yet they will talk about how to fight corruption when they are the ones who are corrupt.
According to the members of the CENUL, the Lima Group is led by the United States and wants to dominate the Summit of the Americas, instead of strengthening integration spaces like UNASUR and CELAC. They want to divide and exclude, like they do with Venezuela.
They do not have any moral authority to question any Latin American country or president, but in particular President Maduro. We have clearly stated that we are against this.
The People's Summit will be a place to listen to the vulnerable people of the continent, like the working classes, indigenous people, and the LGBTI community, among others. Issues sure to be absent in the Summit of the Americas.
Renowned Ecuadorian drug lord Washington Edison Prado has been extradited to the United States. Prado, who has been dubbed the Pablo Escobar of Ecuador, was under arrest in Colombia. He was turned over to the U.S. authorities by a 50-man strong security detail. Prosecutors accuse Prado of heading a smuggling ring which spanned 5 countries. They hold him responsible for the shipping of more than 250 tons of cocaine to the United States. And the United States has broken ground on a border wall between the states of California and Mexico. Workers have taken down the all-metal fence that marked the divide between the two countries. In its place, they will erect a 9-meter-high wall. This will cost $18 million and take 300 days to complete. The project was approved by former President Barack Obama. However, the incumbent, Donald Trump, wants to expand the wall and is seeking $25 billion in funding to do so. The Argentine Coast Guard said it fired at a Chinese vessel that was illegally fishing in their waters last week. According to the Coast Guard, they warned the Chinese ship, the Jingyang 626, and its 4 ally ships, but they were ignored. As a result, guards were forced to fire. An airplane was also used to stop the ships. No one is injured in the attack. The Small Business Association of Argentina says that since Mauricio Macri took office, more than 7,000 companies have closed. They are blaming it on the economic policies enforced by the government.
Workers from the Business Association say that inflation, more imports, and problems with the domestic market are a lethal combination that will damage thousands of companies.
We finished 2017 with a commercial deficit of $9 billion. But if we focus only on the industry sector, it was a $35 billion deficit. This means that we have imported more products than the ones we make. I think this policy must be stopped immediately. We want to make suggestions and discuss this with authorities, because industry generates jobs.
Experts in this sector warn that small and medium companies, which are the ones generating the most work, are the ones most affected.
There have been certain companies closures because of the economic situation, and it is not caused by lack of competitiveness. Our companies are competitive.
Ariel Aguilar thinks that if Macri's administration could do more for Argentina's industry, it would enable the country to export its products and services to the world.
Productos y servicios con valor agregado.
I work with leather. The government said that they will lower taxes for this industry so we can directly export leather. I think it is not a smart decision. Argentina should sell shoes, purses, wallets, belts, because that gives work for more people and redistributes the income.
Business owners say urgent actions are needed to reverse the damage caused by loss of business for small and medium companies.
Time now for another short break. Join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting. The Communist Party of China has announced that it will remove the two-term condition for presidents that paves the way for President Xi Jinping to stay beyond 2013 when the second term ends. The amendment still needs to be passed by Parliament, but it is expected to pass smoothly. This would be a major constitutional reform in the Chinese constitution. Xi is seen as the most powerful leader in the country after Mao Zedong, the founding father of the People's Republic of China.
The country has been developing very quickly. The quality of people's life or quality of happiness has been raised significantly. So if Xi gets re-elected, it will help us considerably and will also raise the quality of people's lives.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has agreed to a daily 5-hour pause in fighting in eastern Ghouta in Syria to facilitate humanitarian aid. Russia's defense minister said the daily ceasefire will begin on Tuesday. It will last from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. each day. However, the UN is asking for a 30-day ceasefire to evacuate the severely wounded people and supply aid deliveries. Schoolgirls in Nigeria are still missing. To know more on that and other stories, let's have a look at news from around the world.
The government in Nigeria has stepped up its rescue and search operation for over 100 missing schoolgirls who were allegedly kidnapped by Boko Haram militants last week. Air search was conducted on Saturday in the northeast of Nigeria from where the girls were abducted. But the Nigerian Air Force said they found no trace of the girls. It is the biggest abduction since more than 200 girls were taken away by the group in 2014. The Nigerian government has been criticized for its response to the alarming situation. One person has been killed and 2 injured in the Democratic Republic of Congo's capital Kinshasa during a banned protest against President Joseph Kabila on Sunday. The protests were organized by the Catholic clergy calling for the president to step down. His term ended in 2016 and an election date has yet to be set. The Congo security forces violently tried to stop the protesters, injuring several others.
As long as we do not see the goodwill, the good faith on the part of our leaders, we will not stop demonstrating. Maybe we will be able to change the way we do it, but we will stick to the end.
The Pyeongchang Winter Olympics has been concluded in South Korea with spectacular fireworks. This game saw many landmarks not only in sports but also in diplomatic relations, with North Korea and South Korea taking steps towards each other to improve their decades of troubled relations. All eyes were also on North Korean leader's sister Kim Yo-jong and US Vice President Mike Pence and the hopes that talks could happen between the two countries. The talks didn't take place then, but now North Korea has announced it is ready to start a dialogue.
The Weinstein studio is set to file bankruptcy after the attempt to sell the company was thwarted. The New York studio is co-founded by Harvey Weinstein, the Hollywood producer, who has been accused of sexual harassment by dozens of actresses. Talks to sell the companies fell apart when it was hit with a lawsuit 2 weeks ago, alleging a hostile work environment and a pattern of sexual harassment in the company. Weinstein has been at the center of sexual abuse scandal in the United States entertainment industry. The allegations against the tainted producer led to the Me Too movement, encouraging many victims to reveal their sexual abuse stories. Hundreds of millions of Indians are mourning the sudden death of the Bollywood star Sridevi. She died from drowning in her hotel bathroom after falling unconscious. She was 54 years old. Sridevi was known as the Queen of Bollywood. She was on the big screen for 5 decades and acted in about 300 films. She charmed her fans with her versatile acting and dancing grace. Her death has shocked not only the film industry, but the entire nation.
Decision that I didn't want to.
And that brings us to the end of this newscast. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at telesurtv.net/English. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Sridevi. Thank you so much for watching.